The other day, I was just having a really off day, and I remember thinking, why shouldn't I give up? And I remember thinking, I wonder I bet there are a lot of other people who are wondering the same thing. So I did a Google search, and I found that there are a lot of people who ask this question, and a lot of websites who talk about it and give answers. So I just wanted to kind of throw my hat in the ring. Some things that have just been kind of encouraging for me. Especially this time of year. It's getting around the holidays. It's always a rough time of year, anyways. But this year is it's just gotten worse. From 2009 to 2019, between the 10-year period before the pandemic, depression in teenage boys rose 74%. That was before the pandemic, and it was either a third or a fourth. I was reading on the CDC website, either a third or a fourth of young adults have considered suicide since the beginning of the pandemic. That's this year. And that statistic, when I read it, was a couple months ago. And as you know, in 2020, things change very rapidly. So I bet you that it's even higher than that by now. And then you have the elections and a lot of mixed feelings from, it seems like, everybody, even the people. I don't know. I just thought that after the election, there'd be more people like, okay, all right, now we can go back to our lives. And it just seems like even though Biden won, it seems like the people are still kind of on edge, and it's hard to see so many people suffering. And before we even look at the question, why shouldn't I give up? I think that it's important to say just a few different things. So the first thing I want to say that doesn't really have to do with answering the question, why shouldn't I give up, is that this isn't forever. Your life is still young, and this may be like, oh, this is such a big deal and everything, and I'm not trying to diminish it, but once you get older and you look back at it, you'll see, oh, I lived through that, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And a lot of things like that happen. You look at the older people, and they don't seem as concerned about it than as the younger people are, because it seems like they're more like, I've lived through these things. I've seen these things. Like, for instance, let's just for a minute remember the people who lived in the early 1900s. They got to see, the economic collapse, two world wars, a huge bad flu. Just a bunch of bad things that they lived through, and it kind of built in that idea of we'll survive. And obviously, the people who have survived those things have mostly died off, if not entirely died off. But the point still remains that sometimes when we're younger and we go through real traumatic things, it kind of makes us think that it's the end of the world, because it's personally scary. And so remember that this isn't forever. Especially if you're one of those people who are you're just over it, you're just done. You're emotionally exhausted, you're physically tired, you're over it. Remember that this is not forever. The things that are happening. So you might find yourself saying something along the lines of this. I just don't feel much of anything. I can definitely relate. I get that. Um, sometimes you just wake up and you don't feel anything, but sometimes it's the month after month of just having to care about everything all the time. You have to care about the racism issue. You have to care about the pandemic. You have to care about the election. You have to care all the time. You have to care about everything. And obviously, I'm not. Those are all good things or whatever. But for people who, like me, have anxiety and depression, those kinds of things, it's just extremely exhausting to have to deal with this day in and day out and day in and day out. And then if you don't really care, or if you're starting to just become emotionally numb, people try and make you feel bad for it. Like, you know, you're supposed to just be able to keep yourself together so you can be worried like we are. And it's like, I just don't feel much of anything. I know I should care. I know I should, yeah, that's good and that's bad, and I should stand up, but then there's still just this emotional numbness, and that numbness is going to come and go throughout your life. If you're like me, it's going to seem like it's like you can't remember a time when you didn't have it. It's just going to drone on and whatever. But here's the thing: you can take a few steps that will help that greatly. Have private places and private times that you can use for meditation, prayer, just to be alone, where every have a set day of the week, or times of the month, or times of a day, or whatever, where you have those special places and those special times. I prefer prayer because it just does a lot to comfort me. I know that not everybody's religious, but I would strongly encourage you to give it a try. Or if you don't want to do that, then just get alone for a little bit. Just quiet down. No technology. No people bothering you. Just your own bit of quiet place. You just get away from it. Going out into the woods might help. Just something to kind of de-stress from it. Just too much all at once. Another thing is watch who you're hanging out with. There's people who are going to build into you. There's people who are just going to be there in your life, and there's going to be people who are just going to drain you. A lot of times, people aren't necessarily bad people. They don't necessarily drain your energy or drain your vision, but they just kind of don't really contribute anything to your life. This is basically everyone on your Facebook friends list. They're like the cereal that sits in your milk and just kind of soaks it up, and then you eat it and it doesn't really have any flavor. It just kind of sits there. They're kind of like the human equivalent of that. And but then there's going to be people who mentor you, people who you mentor, and people who come alongside you. And they're going to be people who really build into you. I got this from a book by a guy named Gordon MacDonald. It's called Reigniting Your Spiritual Passion, I think is what it's called. Something like that. But anyways, and the principle still remains the same. Once again, even if you aren't a leader, even if you aren't religious, I mean, the principle still remains the same. So have special times, special places, special people in your life. And, maybe not be around people who are constantly draining you all the time. I mean, even if you're a pastor, there comes a point when you have to say, these people don't want to change. All that they're doing is they're just sucking all of my energy. Those kinds of people are going to come. You can't make somebody change. And there comes a point when you just kind of have to give them a break. You have to prioritize your time. A lot of times, I say this as associate pastor, there's going to be people who just really take up a lot of your time and energy and keep you from doing what God has called you to do. And then they end up leaving anyways. And, maybe you're not a pastor. Maybe you don't even go to church. Maybe you don't really believe in God, but I think the lesson still relates there. So just a few ideas of what to do if you don't feel anything. Remember, your feelings are not on and off switch. If you've come to a place of complete emotional exhaustion and numbness, you're not going to get out of it quickly. Just take a breath and you can get through it. Just be calm. Don't make any rash decisions. Don't make any decisions in the midst of your pain. So here's just a few ideas. Number one, get help. It doesn't make you any less of a person. It doesn't make you, unsuccessful or failure or anything like that. There's a lot of times we tell ourselves things that just doesn't really make sense. Getting help, that's how you succeed. It's like if you're going to battle and you have no idea what you're doing, you'd probably ask for advisors, right? If, you were leading an organization, you would probably read books or go to a seminar or something, right? I mean, it just makes sense. Get help. Another thing is take breaks. Have set times of just getting away. You can't work all the time and be subjected to the stress in the world all the time and just be okay. It's not going to happen. Now find a hobby. Maybe you're at the point where nothing sounds fun. Do something anyways. Just do something to get your mind off of anything, really. It's something you never thought you would. Learn a language. Learn some crazy language that nobody even talks anymore, like Latin or some nonsense. Just do something completely off the wall, completely not you. Remember, you're kind of, as you sink further and further into depression and these kinds of things, it starts becoming who you are. And then you start changing without even realizing that you're changing. And so a lot of times you have to change what you're doing, even though maybe it's what you did before the anxiety, just so that you start to see a little bit of a break through the anxiety. So find a hobby. Maybe you already have a hobby you enjoy. Start doing it and sticking with it. Make your life more than just your job or whatever. Pray and read the Bible. I know that. Oh well, religious people. I know. Especially nowadays, it's rough being a person of faith nowadays. You have people like Kenneth Copeland and stuff who are just making complete morons of themselves and making it out to be like that's the message of Christianity and that's what God's like or that's what Jesus was like. And it's like, what? Still, there's going to be people that you run into who call themselves Christians who are hateful. They don't care about you. They never will. Those kinds of people aren't really Christians. Let me just kind of rip that band-aid off as quickly as I can. Christians are the people will know that somebody's really a Christian by their love, not by love in words, but by love in action. Like there's a lot of people who talk about love. Oh, love is love, and this and love. But when the rubber meets the road, somebody who really loves is someone who forgives even though there's nothing in it for them. Somebody who serves even though they don't get anything out of it. For instance, you see a lot of religious people, a lot of Christians will do volunteer work, whereas only some atheists will do just to ease their conscience. You typically won't find somebody who is just, doing a lot of volunteer work who's atheist. I mean, it happens, but it's not overly common. Or they do it out of obligation or whatever. But my point, moral of the story being, try praying and reading the Bible. Just try. You might not agree with me on everything that I'm saying. Hey, that's okay. I'm not asking for you to agree with me. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a direction on why shouldn't you give up. This is something that I deal with all the time, and I guess I'm making this video kind of for me too. It's very likely that it won't always be like this. You won't always feel like this. And if nothing else, at least remember that once upon a time there was light in your life. Remember the memory of the light, even if you never feel that passion and desire in life again. At least remember and treasure the memory of it, having once experienced it. I mean, it's better to have felt it and then lose it than to never feel it at all. That's what life's about. And even that far distant yearning that maybe someday I'll feel again, that itself is a feeling, and I think shows us that we're closer than we thought we were. Another thing I want to mention is that thankfulness really is a mindset. Thankfulness is a mindset. A lot of bad stuff happens in life. A lot of bad things happen. But thankfulness is really a mindset. Thankfulness isn't something that you have in spite. Because you don't have any problems. It's something that you have regardless of your problems. It's something that you choose to do. I'm thankful, not because everything's going good, but even if things aren't bad, and as a result of things being bad, I'm still thankful. Thankfulness is, looking for the good. Thankfulness is appreciating what you have. Thankfulness is ultimately, thankfulness is going to people who are having a rough time and investing into them because you realize that other people have invested into you. Thankfulness gets your mind off of all the things you're going through. You really have to choose how to think. And if you've gotten into a place of I have nothing to be thankful for, then that right there is part of the problem. You have to choose how to think. And although you may have chosen to be ungrateful in the past, you should still choose to be grateful in the future. Even if it isn't natural, you're going to have to maybe contradict some of your natural desires and feelings. You still have to choose thankfulness. People who aren't always thankful always have something to complain about. And people who are always thankful always have something to be thankful about. It's just something that you always see. It's really something where you work up the pattern in your own thoughts. You hear this, people say this a lot. They say, fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. And I understand that, really I do. I remember one time being so annoyed, my team just kept getting down, kept getting depressed, and they weren't even trying anymore. They got to a place where they were all tearing each other down. One of them would go through bad things, then they would tear down the other ones, and the other one would go through a bad thing. It'd be worse than it had to have been, and just over and over again. And so finally, out of frustration, I said, you have to put forth the desire to be better. Like, you can't just, oh, I give up, and then expect everybody else to just carry you. You know what I mean? You have to make that decision. Things suck. I'm going to do something about it. And that's a hard place to get to, but until you find that fighting spirit, it's really hard for anybody to really have the answer of why shouldn't I give up. At the end of the day, you have to choose not to give up or to give up. So I just pray, and I really do mean that you choose the right thing. And so I ended up telling them, if you can't, smile, if you can't enjoy the day, then at least put on a smile and pretend to enjoy the day. And my point was this. After I said it, I realized that I had basically said, fake it till you make it. And I realized how terrible that was after I said it, as somebody who goes through those kinds of things. But what I was trying to say, what the point I was trying to get across was stop feeding off like, oh, I'm just sad, and so that's just how things are going to be. And like, I'm just not even going to try. The world sucks, and I'm just going to live here for forever in my sorrow. It's like, just shake it up. Come on, let's face it. Yes, things suck. I totally get that. But you can't expect everybody else to carry you forward. Like, you have to find that fighting spirit. Yeah. Sometimes you say something out of irritation, and it's just harder to take backwards and say them in the first place. So with that being said, face it till you make it. Face it till you make it. Keep pounding away at it, going back to it. You fall, you get back up and do it again. It doesn't matter how many times you fell, you found a new way that doesn't work. Just keep trying. The thing is, fighting will yield a breakthrough, but doing nothing does nothing. And giving up, it doesn't stop the pain, it just moves you backwards from where you were. It doesn't matter if we're talking about giving up in the sense of suicide, or if we're talking about giving up in the sense of, stop trying and stuff. But here's the thing. Really, it comes down to this. Where are you at with God? And, it's hard to talk about this because it's like people want to say, okay, yeah, I get the whole religious thing, but why shouldn't I give up? And the thing is, God is the reason not to give up. If you don't believe in God, there's not much of a reason to... It's hard to plow forward from there. You have to start with the basis, I am created intentionally by God with purpose. And if you don't have that, then what do you have? I am the product of evolution. Morals don't exist, and there is no God, and nothing I do ultimately matters because I don't know if the next generation is going to undo it. There's no divine working in anything. You see what I mean? Where do you go from that? How do you say I can't give up when there is no reason not to give up? But if God is in it, then there is a reason. If it wasn't for God and for the Bible and prayer and church, I would be done for. I can't keep lying to myself and saying that, God doesn't matter when God is a central aspect of every single one of my things in my life. People think that their life is a series of boxes, and if you're religious, it's one of those boxes that make you, or maybe it's off there in the distance or whatever. It's not supposed to be that. It's supposed to be God, and all those other things in your life just get new meaning, and it just works it differently where you can work through these dark times. So definitely face it till you make it, and God can help with that. A majority of the world's population is convinced that death is not the end and that something happens after death. So with that being said, maybe that's something worth thinking about when you ask the question, why shouldn't I give up? Another thing I want to say is don't be led by your feelings. I just don't care. Well, okay, but you might care one day. I'm just tired of trying. Well, okay, so take a break, but don't quit. I just don't belong. Well, don't find your worth and identity in the opinions of others. Maybe they are wrong about you. Did you ever think of that? Maybe the things that they're saying behind your back, maybe they're wrong. Who said that their opinion mattered? Who said, yes, this person who says that I'm a waste of space, their opinion matters. This parent who said that I am a mistake, their opinion matters. Who said that? I remember God creating us, and I remember him saying, In the image of God I create you. And I remember him giving such significance to our existence that he then sent his son to die for us. At the end of the day, I mean, you can make fun of it all you want, but at the end of the day, that's a reason for existing. That's a reason for living. Without God, it just becomes a fight to survive so that you can survive the longest before you die. I wish I could undo the damage of years of fake Christians. I wish I could undo Christianity's preoccupation with Trump, with thinking that they're better than everybody else, with yelling at people saying that they're going to hell. I wish I could undo the Kenneth Copelands of the world, but I can't. I'm just one person, and I can't convince you to give Christianity or God a try. I'm sorry that you've had those experiences. I understand I've had them too. I grew up in a pastor's household, the son of a preacher, and I hated church. All that they ever did was find things wrong with me, what I should have been doing, how I was a failure at everything, how I was a disgrace to my father. I was never really close with my parents either. It seemed like nothing I did mattered. They just didn't accept me for who I was. I got into my teenage years, got a lot of attention from high school girls, and that I stopped. I used the affection of girls to blind myself to how I needed to change and grow and learn. And when I went off to college trying to live in my siblings' shadows, I went to the same college that they went to, and it didn't work. Nobody accepted me. Everybody rejected me again. I've always been rejected. My closest friends have always left me. My family's abandoned me. But through it all, I've learned to trust in Jesus, and he's given me hope and he's given me peace. That's something that's important. And so when I ask the question, why shouldn't I just give up? I'm always reminded of one simple reason. Because Jesus. Nothing else really matters. Well, I'm not doing any good. Well, maybe. But you don't know that. And you may still do good in the future. So don't let your feelings have the last say so. Answer those feelings, answer those thoughts, contradict them, argue with them. The Bible helps me to do that. If someone abandoned you, if someone betrayed you, whatever, look, I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that you've had to deal with that. I'm sorry that you've had to deal with maybe a parent not being around or not accepting you for who you are or whatever. I'm sorry. That's just the way it was. I mean, I can't do anything to fix it. You can't do anything to fix it either. But you can't live continually in that failure, that frustration. And you can't let it decide your entire course of history. You can't give up on a future just because you've had some rough times. Their actions are not on you. Their actions are not on you. Especially for a parent that says, hey, you're a mistake. How do they know that? The Bible says that we were formed in our mother's womb by God. So yes, maybe God used our mother and our father, but we did have purpose, even if a person failed to see that purpose. I was reading a book by a guy named Larry Osborne. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't, it doesn't really matter. And he made the statement that people are like Legos, that they only have so many different, those holes on the top of blocks, pieces, whatever, that they can fit into. So in other words, there's only so many people that can fit into your life before you just don't really have space for, you know what I mean? You ever notice how once you get to you have a good friend or two, it's just Other people are just like, you're kind of hesitant. You know what I mean? Like, I'm good in the friend department. You kind of see what I'm saying? Sometimes people are removed so that others can be put in. But the problem is that when people are removed from our lives, we start getting bitter, and that's not a healthy idea. That look at it like this instead: they're removed so that others can fit in. Maybe others who will appreciate you, maybe others who you can help, maybe others who when you have to change who you are and pretend and tiptoe around people and everything you do makes somebody mad, you're better off not having them in your life. Maybe not. I shouldn't say that. Maybe I should say having them as a close friend. If people don't accept you for who you are, keep changing, keep growing. Don't become bitter and then, oh well, you just have to work around me. No, keep growing it. Don't be stupid. Of course, grow out absolutely. But at the end of the day, if somebody loves you with qualifications, now sometimes we feel like people are doing that, but they really aren't. It's just that maybe they're not great at expressing themselves, or maybe you just have some stuff that you need to work through. Oftentimes, our hurt we project it onto other situations. I my opinion is this: thank God for fake people being removed from your life. They were exposed to you as fakes. It's better that they were removed now than that you know, trusted them in a critical situation and were left with, well, with a knife in your back. Don't let those people who betray you and talk down to them and talk down to you and don't see your value, don't let them win by changing who you are because they have poor character. Oh, well, they betrayed me. I'm never going to let that happen again. Well, so now they're changing you. Their bad character is now making you have a bad character. That's not great. So let's look at this question. Why shouldn't I give up? I have 5 simple reasons. Number 1, because giving up doesn't stop the pain. It just makes others suffer. If you commit suicide, you leave behind children, you leave behind maybe a lover, you leave behind parents, you leave behind, and maybe you think, oh, I'll get back at them. You won't be there to enjoy it anyways. What does it matter if you get back at them? There's more to life than revenge. Life can be a sweet thing. It can be. Maybe it hasn't been, maybe you never known that it can, but it still can be in the future. All you're doing is making others suffer. See, there's people like me who every single day, it's just a really big struggle to keep getting up and to keep going. And then we see people all around us giving up, committing suicide. And it makes us think we're destined to fail, we're doomed to fail. So for no other reason, don't give up for those anonymous people all around you who it would affect. Number 2, because you don't know what the future holds. Maybe you're at the precipice of something great. Number 3, because people need you, even if you haven't found those people yet. Your struggles are one day going to be their encouragement. Remember that. Number 4, because there's more and better than where you are now. There is more in life and better in life than where you are now. You were created intentionally for a purpose by God. God can change you, He can change a situation, and any other number of things. You can find peace and comfort in God. Why does it matter that God can change you? Because He can change how you feel about something. He can change that hopelessness that you carry around. And number 5, because of your pain, you are perfectly suited to be the change that caused you to get hurt. In other words, you can be the change that you want to see. Don't let others hurt just because you do. Do something about it. Your pain is a perfect opportunity to say, how can I make sure other people don't feel this? I did something called the Great Cycle Challenge this year. It was a challenge for me. It was a very big learning curve about sticking with things. When I made my goal, I made my fundraising goal too. And I learned that a lot of people who had lost a child to cancer were doing it, or survived cancer as a child were doing it. And you know, getting through that kind of a battle is great already, but using the life that you still have to help other people who might make it through, that's good. That's good. So maybe this was more what's it called, introspective, than it is just giving you the bare ideas of why you shouldn't give up. But if you watch this whole thing, hey, thanks. And I hope you found something in there that you can use. So I hope you don't give up. I really do. If you're somebody who survived a suicide attempt, if you could just leave in the comments just me, I really think that'd be cool. So, okay. Well, have a great day, guys.